Convening the fifth hearing on the committee for the Committee on Higher Education and Technology. My name is Amy Prusso, currently serving as chair. To my left is Vice Chair Janae Capella. We are in room 309, and we are also being joined by Rep. Martin, 2:30 p.m. via video conference, State Capitol, Friday, February 10th, 2023. We're going to go over, I'm going to have Vice Chair go over some guidelines for participation in today's hearing, and then we're going to move into a consideration of 8 measures before us today.
Thank you, Chair. In order to allow for as many people to testify as possible, there is a 2-minute time limit per testifier. Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify if you are joining us on Zoom, and once again after your testimony is complete. The video chat function, the Zoom chat function is only for technical staff, so please use that for technical issues only. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note that the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. And in the event of a network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please refrain from any profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm going to have Vice Chair take over on House Bill 919. That's our first bill that we're considering today, relating to residents for tuition purposes.
Thank you, Chair. HB 919 relating to tuition purposes. First up, we have the University of Hawaii in support, either in Zoom or in person.
I think we're in both. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. University of Hawaii stands on its testimony. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Up next, we have the Attorney General with comments in Zoom or in person. Candace Park.
I have a Candace in Zoom.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Good afternoon, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella. Just 2 things we wanted to point out. First of all, this bill requires the statewide concern language. Also, we thought that the amended language of 304A, 402 needed to be revised in order to make sure the intent of the bill is carried out. We've provided a suggested amended language.
Thank you so much. That's all I have on my testifiers list. Is there anyone who would like to testify on this measure? Members, are there any questions? I have a question for UH. So in your testimony, you talk a little bit about how the potential for utilizing the voter language could possibly be a barrier. Can you expand a little bit upon that?
Sure. There's a couple different dimensions to that answer because, of course, we are very much for people being registered to vote and for voting. But as we note in our testimony, there are some high school students who aren't eligible to vote for a variety of different reasons, one of those being that they may not be citizens. Additionally, we have taken out of the Hawaii administrative rules that you have to show an intent to register to vote or intent to be a resident by using voter registration. And so it would make a slight misalignment with how the recent HAR updates have gone. And we think there are other ways in which, and all of that was done to make it easier to demonstrate residency for the purposes of being admitted to one of the UH campuses. So that was our intent there. Ultimately, I think we all would like to see there be a sort of consistent policy and understanding that we want our Hawaii high school students to be attending UH in one dimension or another. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have HB 968 HD1 relating to the University of Hawaii and appropriating funds for the University of Hawaii Pamantasan Council. Up first, we have Hawaii Friends of Civil Rights, Amy Agbayani, in support.
Thank you very much for scheduling us. Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. I won't read my testimony you have in front of you. I just want to emphasize that the Pamantasan Council bill today builds on a couple of legislative acts, one in 2019 when we were awarded 2 positions, but they were never established because of the pandemic. So we never got them, but we were able to use some of the resources. And last year, this legislature passed Senate Concurrent Resolution 132, which required the university to submit a report. And so they submitted a report, and it documents various things and recommends the 3 positions. And we've identified those positions. And there's lots of statistics that I'd be happy to talk about. But clearly, the Filipino students and faculty, staff, and curriculum are underrepresented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, here to testify in person is Agnes Malate, Filipinos for Affirmative Action.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. It's Malate as in latte, but I often get called Malate a few times.
I knew I made a mistake.
You have my testimony in front of you, but I just wanted to add that I first became aware of Pamantasan as a young professional, and it's been 35 years now, and I can say that I've benefited from the work and efforts of the Pamantasan Council, and I've also, as a professional, having worked at the medical school and currently with the Student Equity Excellence and Diversity Programs, Health Careers Opportunity Program. That's quite a mouthful. I've seen how the impact this program or the efforts of the council has had on the students. And we don't often have many professionals in the DOE. I mean, we have now more teachers, but throughout from the pathway, the pipeline, there are very few. And for me to be able to have learned about my Filipino heritage and the language at the University of Hawaii was very crucial to my success as a student then. And we try to incorporate cultural elements in what we do in our program for it, and all the students who participate have really benefited regardless of their ethnicity. And as a scholar, having just received my PhD, there was a dearth of information, research on Filipinos. So the Pamantasan Council, that's one of the things that we do recognize and hope to also address that would benefit all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have Leon Florendo joining us on Zoom in support.
Sorry, I'm here.
Oh, in person, please.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Leon Florendo, and I stand by my testimony that I've submitted. But like Agnes, I want to just add in, as an advocacy, a Filipino Samoan, learning about my identity did not come from my home. And being raised by a Samoan mom and a Filipino dad, we didn't really talk about our history and our culture. It wasn't until I went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa and took an ethnic studies course and learned about that. Today I'm a counselor at Leeward Community College, and at the community college it's even worse in the sense that we don't have access to that. This Pamantasan bill is going to support Leeward in supporting a position to move forth our Filipino studies academic subject certificate and offering Filipino courses online where all the campuses will be able to have access, and Filipino students from Kauai to Hawaii Island will be able to register online and benefit and learn about the richness beyond just the sakatas, which we always hear about, and nursing and hotel workers and whatnot. We've gone beyond that, and I think it's through the work of Pamantasan will help move that forward. So thank you again for this opportunity, and happy Aloha Friday.
Thank you very much. That's all I have on my testifiers list. I will note that we also have the National Alliance for Knowledge Empowerment in support, and the Saraling Gawa Youth Council in support, and about 20 other individuals also in support. Is there anyone else here or on Zoom wishing to testify? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Okay, moving on to HB 313 HD1 relating to agriculture, appropriates funds to the University of Hawaii to establish a foreign agricultural small equipment pilot program. Up first, I have Brian Miyamoto with the Hawaii Farm Bureau in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have our testimony in front of you. We do support this measure, and thank you for hearing it. We've come before this body for several years. Basically, what we're looking for is size-appropriate equipment for our small farmers here in Hawaii. Foreign equipment, I know it does specify Japan, but we're willing to look all over the place, all over the world, for the equipment that our small farmers that maybe aren't able to use the large equipment for agriculture that we find on the mainland. But one of the problems is the EPA standards for some of these engines don't meet, or the engines don't meet the U.S. EPA standards. So this is a pilot program that we'd like to run through the University of Hawaii, the extension service who works directly with farmers, identify what their needs are, identify where to find it, bring it in for some testing, see what needs to be done to bring that in as far as with the regulations, and then do some trials and then teach the farmers how to use it. It does have some synergy and alliance with DBED's request for $7.5 million for a facility in Hilo on the foreign trade zone, which may be able to get around the actual EPA requirements. But ultimately, we're going to get it off of that property. So Department of DBED has requested $7.5 million. They've already done the planning and design. We think this can align with the pilot to already start the program, to find the equipment, and then once that facility is built, utilize that facility to actually roll out this program for Hawaii farmers across the state. So thank you for the opportunity to testify. Aloha.
Thank you very much for your testimony. That's all I have indicated who would like to testify. I do have testimony in support from the University of Hawaii, also in support Land Use Research Foundation of Hawaii, Maui County Farm Bureau, and about 9 other individuals also in support, 1 individual in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Oh, please.
Chairperson Caruso, members of the committee, sharing your Department of Agriculture. Department of Agriculture.
Can you come up to the...
Just kind of loud.
Sorry, thank you.
Sorry, I guess our testimony was late. Chairperson Caruso, members of the committee, Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. We'd like to stand on our written testimony in support, and with the comment that the equipment from Japan and India be considered for this pilot program. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I can ask that. Members, are there any questions? Yes. Rep. Martin.
I have a question, maybe for the Department of Agriculture. I'm wondering when this equipment is brought in, is the thought, if it does not meet EPA standards, to somehow modify it? Whether
Yes,
it's
right. That's
improving
what-
the mufflers or I don't know what, but
Very
that's
good
the-
question, Rep. Martin, and that is the intent, and that's Brian Miyamoto from the Farm Bureau's comment, is that maybe we bring it into the foreign trade zone so it's not quite in the U.S. They take a look at it, tear it up, make the adjustments, teach the University of Hawaii Community College level how to fix it up so that it does meet EPA standards. Thank you.
Okay. Director, while you're still here.
Oh, hey.
Just a quick
Capella.
question. Do you think that the language would need to be amended? Because I don't have your testimony in
I'm
front of
sorry.
me. Does it need to be amended in order to include India?
No, it's in the testimony that was probably late, but I can send it to you.
Okay, so
Okay.
as the language is now, it'll also be able to include the country that you're stating, aside from Japan.
As the language is now, yes, it does
Okay.
include India.
Thank you. Thank you
you.
very much. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, we're going to be hearing HB 503 relating to computer science education. This measure would require the Board of Education to work with the Department of Education to conduct an analysis on the need, impact, and feasibility of making computer science a graduation requirement. It would require the board to make a determination on whether making computer science a graduation requirement would be in the best interest of public school students and the public, and then would require a report to the legislature. First up, I think First up in person, we have Keith Hayashi, Superintendent, Department of Education. Not present. We also have David Miyashiro, Hawaii Kids Can, in support in person.
Aloha, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. Hawaii Kids Can stands on our written testimony in strong support of HB 503 HD1 with a few notes. We do recognize and respect the important policymaking role of the Hawaii Board of Education. As amended, we believe HB 503 HD1 is an important opportunity for the board, legislature, and DOE to work together to address an issue of community need. Even board members and staff recognize the unclear mechanisms by which community members are able to transparently request items to add to the board agendas. As a result, I understand the legislature often becomes a catch-all for a wide range of issues in education, as legislators are visible figures and session is a relatively clear process. This bill will allow for the important topic of computer science to be addressed collaboratively. Equity and access in STEM matters, and this collaboration will ensure that a complex issue, like graduation requirements, gets the analysis and discussion it deserves. The funds for professional development would also be much appreciated by our public school teachers. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify, and thank you for the work that you do to support Hawaii's kids, families, teachers, and schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we have Celeste Endo in support on Zoom. Aloha.
Let it grow, let it grow, let computer science grow. Aloha Avakea, Chair Caruso, Chair, Vice Chair Capella, and Higher Education and Technology Committee. I am Celeste Endo, a preschool through 5th grade computer science teacher at Queen Ka'ahumanu Elementary. This week, 3rd graders sang along with Elsa and made their own card games to learn of the computer science concept if Elsa. If else conditionals. Our preschoolers even jumped up this conditionals game. Let's try it. If black card, we do the shaka. Else, red card, we twist. Okay, get ready, guys. If black card, is this true? Yes, it's true. Come on, guys. Black card, is it black? No, it's not true. So we go to the next one. Else, red card, is it red? Yes. Here we go. Twist. My ducky. Very good. Now, let's sing along with Elsa. The words are, let it grow, let computer science grow. Here we go. Let it grow, let computer science grow. Mahalo.
Thank you so much for that very entertaining testimony.
Thank you.
Finally, we have Amber Davis, individual in support on Zoom.
Hi there, my name is Amber Davis. I am with Code.org, Director of State Government Affairs, and thank you, Chair and Committee, for your time today. Every student is capable of learning computer science, and we believe that's a foundational subject that every student would benefit from learning. Hawaii's made great strides in access to computer science. All high schools are required to offer computer science. However, there are still 23% of schools that do not offer computer science. While this gap is closing every year, unfortunately, who enrolls in computer science is not equitable amongst all students. When you look at the gender breakdown of the 3.8% of students that are enrolled in computer science, only 23.8% of those students are female. While there is a stark gender gap, this is not unique to your state. The only states that we have seen solve this problem are ones that have passed the computer science graduation requirement, and that's why we are advocating for this policy. We are encouraged by this legislation to require the Board of Education to evaluate this policy, and we are grateful for the provision of the bill that includes funding for professional development for teachers to help close that gap. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. In addition to that testimony, we also had Board of Education provided comments, and then Phaedra Robinson from RAI Hawaii in support, Leah Natake from TechNet in support, and then 2 other individuals in support. And I had, if members, are there any questions? Seeing none. Amber, I have a quick question for you, because you have a national perspective, and I'm wondering, and clearly, if you mandate that students take a course, your outcomes are going to change in terms of, what students are actually taking the course. But I'm wondering, in the post graduation analysis, are you seeing a narrowing of the gender gap? Do you see more females go into professions related to or requiring that kind of background? Or is it too early to tell?
Thank you for that question. We don't have specific data in terms of how many of them are now pursuing that as a career, but in terms of enrollment, the numbers are significantly, in South Carolina, for example, they're about at 50-50 for males and females, and that's the only state that we've really been able to see that. The other states are inching their way up in the high 40s that have the graduation requirement. But it's interesting because in the states like Hawaii, who requires it to be offered, we actually see the racial and ethnic minority gap closes with just that policy, but the gender gap is what we're not able to close with that policy. And so that's why we are trying to make sure this is equitable for all students, and they are having, females are having access, and making sure that this is something that they're exposed to as part of their core curriculum.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your testimony. Members, any other questions? If not, we're going to move on to HB 659 relating to health. This establishes permitting and education requirements for pharmacists performing certain diagnostic tests or tests waived pursuant to the Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments of 1988. The CLIA amendments expands the definition of practice of pharmacy to include the ordering of and collection of specimens for certain diagnostic or CLIA waived tests. So first up, providing testimony, we have James Skazuski, Board of Pharmacy in person. Sorry if
No,
I
that was great.
apologize.
That's
Okay.
the best I've heard so far. So I'm James Skazuski. I'm Executive Officer for the Board of Pharmacy. I'm just here to let you guys know I'm available for questions, and I'll stand on my testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Annie Macapagal. Macapagal. Thank you. We have Mihoko Ito from Walgreens in support in person.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Mihoko Ito on behalf of Walgreens, here to testify in support of this measure, which would clarify and confirm scope of practice for pharmacists in terms of the tests that they're already able to do today. So there's two types of tests that this bill covers. First is CLIA waive tests, which are basically tests that laypersons can perform almost by definition. So it's like the cholesterol, finger prick, or blood sugar tests, and also the home COVID tests that we've all become so accustomed to. So. And then second, the other test that this would allow for pharmacies to collect is the specimen-based tests. So those are like the COVID swabs that then get sent to a laboratory for processing. And we note that passing this bill would still require pharmacies to get a DOH permit. And that the reason this bill is probably before this committee is because there are education and training requirements that are included in the measure. So I just wanted to mention that those training requirements are pursuant to the ACPE, which is the pharmacy education accrediting body.
Thank you so
very
much.
much. Happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate that. We also have Corey Sanders from the Hawaii Pharmacists Association in support on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and the rest of the committee. My name is Corey Sanders. I'm president of the Hawaii Pharmacists Association. I won't be singing in my testimony, so it probably won't be as engaging as the previous ones, but I just wanted to stand in strong support from the Hawaii Pharmacists Association, and also personally add the sentiment that some of these tests, if they are performed and interpreted incorrectly, they can result in death. And I know that that is a concern for some of the parties that are submitting testimony today. What I also want to provide is the alternate perspective is that without some of these tests and the knowledge that they provide, that can also result in death itself. So again, we are the most accessible healthcare providers in the state. And in my testimony, I gave an example of, if someone feels like they have low blood sugar, it's 8:00 p.m. on a Friday night, and their options or to go to the pharmacy or a hospital. This also will alleviate the burden on an already overburdened healthcare system with a profession that is trained beyond capacity to either provide and interpret a CLIA wave test or collect a non-wave test. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much for that testimony. In addition to that testimony, we have testimony and support from Marian Mobley-Smith from the University of Hawaii, Byron Yoshina, Pharmacare Hawaii, Patrick Miyamoto, Times Pharmacy, Kimberly Svedin from Molokai Drugs. We have testimony in opposition from Ali Park from Clinical Laboratories of Hawaii, and an additional 5 individuals all submitting written testimony in support. Members, are there any questions? Moving on, HB 481. This measure would require the University of Hawaii to provide menstrual products free of charge to all students on any University of Hawaii campus, including the community colleges. First to testify, we have Deborah Halbert, University of Hawaii, in support in person.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair. The University of Hawaii stands on its written testimony. Happy to answer any questions, but I know there's a lot of folks eager to testify here. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Next, we have Candace Park, Attorney General, with comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Just wanted to point out that the statewide concern language would be necessary for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joining us today with additional support, we should have Nikki Ann Yi from the Ma'i Movement Hawaii in support on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify. We wholeheartedly stand on our written testimony, and we stand with all the students, faculty, and community members because the inadequate access to menstrual products is a systemic issue. Since our nonprofit started a little over 2 years ago, we've worked with 7 of the campuses, and we kept hearing the same thing. They've been doing it for years, and UH Women's Center since the 90s, but they don't have enough resources because of lack of support. They've tried to go to administration and they get pushback, or they just hit a wall, or they've been relying on student government fees and grants, which is just unsustainable. Everyone shared the same sentiment. More needs to be done. Menstrual products are a basic need, and this is a basic need for 60% of the total population. It cannot be ignored. This is not a pet project or a trending topic that'll pass. This is the safety and health of our girls, women, trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming menstruators. And as I testify before you today, I really hope that this would not be pushed aside any longer, because the campuses, students, and faculty have all come together to make their voices heard. It's time to recognize menstrual inequity, tackle the issue of period poverty, and adopt this as a policy of equity. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we have Arabella Molina in support in person.
Aloha, Honorable Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. My name is Arabella Molina, and I'm a recent graduate of UH Manoa with my BA in Public Health with a minor in Women and Gender Studies. I'm a constituent of House District 48 of Kahalu'u. I'm very passionate about period poverty and addressing it at the university and community college level. I'm the university coordinator at Ma'i Movement Hawaii. I personally assist with delivering products as well as talk with fellow students, groups, and staff on how to support the implementation of these products. I completed a policy analysis paper on implementing free menstrual products at UH Manoa, and I received great feedback from staff and students in support of the idea, who only hoped it would get to where it is now. So I'm testifying in support of HB 481 because I've witnessed period poverty firsthand. Friends of mine have had to miss class due to not having a menstrual product. And personally, I've had to rely on toilet paper to use in place of a menstrual product, or just hope that someone else was in the bathroom with me who had one on hand. So currently, there are free menstrual products provided at UH Manoa, Kapiolani Community College, Windward Community College, Hawaii Community College, UH Hilo, UH West Oahu, Kauai Community College, and Honolulu Community College. This is all done with the help of staff, administrators, students, as well as Ma'i Movement Hawaii. So far, this has been a huge success. Menstrual products are essential and should be considered a right and not a luxury to procure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we have Julie Rancilio in support in person.
Thank you, Chair Caruso. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Capella, and all of the committee members are here for listening to my testimony. I am a professor of history, and I'm also the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society advisor at Kapiolani Community College, and I am here to strongly support HB 481. It is very much needed, and it is long, long overdue. In 2017, as part of a college project that Honor Society members are asked to do, my students identified the lack of any period products, tampons or pads, anywhere on campus, not even 25-cent dispensers that actually dispense products anymore. And so what they decided to do is they decided that that was an issue of concern, and that to make our campus better, we needed to provide free tampons and pads. They spoke with the chancellor, who tasked them with research, and when they came back, they had all their research in hand, and they spoke to me and said, you know what the best research is, Professor Julie? And I said, no, tell me. And they said, we need to do a pilot project. We need to provide the chancellor with data. And so what we did in 2017 is we started what was intended to be a pilot project, but has been ongoing now for 5 years. We took makeshift plastic tubs, we hung them in 4 bathrooms, and we staffed them once a week, sometimes twice a week, with tampons and pads. This initiative was totally student-led, it is totally student-driven, and it is completely student-funded. To date, our dispensers actually stayed up, but our program, we've actually been able to scale it. We actually now have 8 official one-touch dispensers in 8 of our restrooms, and to date, over the last 5 years, we have dispensed almost 20,000 products combined, tampons and pads. We received tons of feedback. We did a petition drive. We have received unsolicited emails thanking us for making the campus better. When I'm filling them sometimes in the library, I have people thanking me as well. So our program is incredibly successful, and I am super, super proud of what the students have done. Totally on their own, from refilling to, more importantly, the funding. So everything has been funded either through a couple of grants that I was able to apply for as a faculty member, but all of the products have been paid for by the students with student monies. We as an Honor Society chapter do not get support financially at all from the UH system. All we get is a $20 one-time membership due. And with that, we have to really decide what is most important to support our students. And our students make those decisions, not me. I'm just there to advise them. And so for the past 5 years, they have decided that this successful program, which clearly speaks to student success, is something that we need to continue. But what they do want me to let you know is that our model, as successful as it is not sustainable. As a matter of fact, we had to make the decision to actually go to Student Congress last year, because we have so many things that we need to do with the money in terms of supporting student success. And so why we are so passionate about House Bill 481 is we don't believe that student monies, whether that is Honor Society dues, whether that's a club fee, or whether that is fees that are funneled through Student Congress, should be used to pay for menstrual products. It's a biological function that we don't ask students to use their monies to pay for toilet paper, for soap, for anything that is related to the products in the restroom. So our program actually, I think, can be a great model. It's actually a good place for a discussion to start. So I just wanted to let anyone know we are happy to sit down and talk with anyone who wants to learn more details about our program, some of which are in my testimony because I had much more time. But in particular, one of the things that we have done is we have systematically...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do have your written testimony,
Okay.
and we have read it.
Great.
And so I very much appreciate
Great.
your work,
Great.
and especially supporting your students. So thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Yeah, thank you too. And again, if you want any information, just we're happy to give a presentation.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jasmine POTUS Mangra in support in person.
Aloha, my name is Jasmine POTUS Mangra. I actually was able to see you guys when you visited the university a few weeks ago, so nice to see you again. I'm actually the student assistant for the University of Hawaii Manoa Women's Center. Lack of access to menstrual products is not just an issue for elementary, junior high, middle, and high school students, but also for college students, as they can have complications to their academic and career experiences due to periods. Before I knew about the Women's Center, there was a day I had to miss class because my period came early. I didn't have any products on me at the time. I went to the bathroom to create something to catch it out of toilet paper. Classic. Sometimes at inopportune moments in the middle of the day, I have to wait to be able to get home to clean up and just basically sit in my own blood. Pads and tampons are not cheap, yet menstruators have to buy them every month, which is another expense on top of a huge financial burden required of college students, especially here in Hawaii. Reusable products are not always an option, as they can be expensive, difficult to use, and hard to maintain when you don't have access to private single-person bathrooms, like all students that attend school all day long and people that live on campus and live shared units. It's not an issue that just affects our female and women identifying folks. It's also affecting non-binary female-bodied folks and trans men. And this is half the world's population, so I think that if University of Hawaii and the state of Hawaii wants to foster an environment of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we would pursue this basic human right, which is not a luxury and is not something that people should have to pay for in order to exist and identify and be who they are.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we have Michelle Kayo in support in person.
Hi, aloha. Thank you for this opportunity for me to offer testimony.
Can you move your, yes, the mic closer to your mouth. There you go. Thank
Yes,
you.
so you can hear me, because get it, girl. I can sing too, sister. Okay, I was just saying, like, mahalo and thank you for allowing me to be here and give testimony. I wanted to give it just straight from my heart and just let you guys know a little bit about me. I'm Mahala Yi. I was raised in Kilka and on Mokuo Keawe, and I come from a Native Hawaiian family who lived under poverty all of our life, and still till today. I am still like an 89-day contract kind of person who works at the University of Hawaii. And so I speak to this from life experience. I not only had to use toilet paper, but I had to use paper towel because I'm a heavy set woman. Paper towel, I will rip through. You know, so I needed something else. Another thing that happened to me personally at 6th grade in Kilka Elementary is that I kept my tampon in for too long. Because why? No more that much at home. No more in school at the time. So mahalo for making that a reality. And I got sick. And I didn't understand why. And I didn't know why. And I didn't even really know about ma'i or period that much at that time. And when it was taught to me, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna wear that again. I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that. And so even further strain, right? I am also one of those girls that if I leak through or I bled through, I'm cutting class, I'm cutting school, and it's even harder to cut back in, right? Once you leave, now, oh my goodness, how am I gonna get back in now that I took care of everything? So access to education and, you know, what it can do for you, right? We all know education is the way to get out of poverty. Okay, if it is, then we need to also address all of our basic needs as a wahine living in Hawaii. I don't come from, you know, I'm first generation too, college graduate. So I didn't come from all this great knowledge, works of knowledge in my family. No, I came from Iki Kapuna. Let me take that back. I do come from great knowledge, but talking about like in the world that we live in today. Currently, I do oversee a lot of the programs that are going on at UH Manoa for our period poverty, menstrual equity movement. Just in this last week, I can tell you that we've given over 75 pads, just in this last week, Just in this last week, over 75 pads, females came to the office to either retrieve them or see me on campus, and I've told them, this is where you go, this is where you're going. I mean, we gave over 250 condoms too this week, but that's the issue here. But it's like totally a need, and I don't want to take up too much time with statistics and all the different things that we're doing, because I can write you that testimony, I can give you all of that. I just want to stand in support of this and echo what everybody else have said. Yeah, aloha.
Aloha. Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we have Carolina Surrey in support in person.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and esteemed members of this committee. My name is Carolina Sheree. I'm currently a sophomore at the University of Hawaii at Manoa studying sustainability. Sustainability is something I'm passionate about because it affects all aspects of life, not just the environment, even though that is my specialty. Sustainability is not just about reusing Tupperware and bringing your own straws. It's also about creating systems within our communities that uplift those in need. And as a student from Texas, I consistently face and witness attacks on women and menstruating individuals in my home community every single day. I came to Hawaii because I have the freedom to choose guaranteed, thanks to other members of this legislative body. But I, as a state, have realized that there is a distinct lack of support from institutions in regard to period care and supplies across the board. It is an honor and a rite of passage to bleed, something that I hold with pride. But your period has a mind of its own, and there have been times, like many of my fellow testifiers, where I've had to skip class or I've had to sit in my own blood for hours. And that's just super not cool. And so there's nothing like the fear in your eyes of hoping that there's someone in the bathroom waiting for a tampon, which is why I keep some, because I'm privileged enough to be able to buy in bulk. But this is a basic right to be able to this is a basic right to have access to pads and tampons in all public spaces, but especially in higher education institutions. And I believe that they should be free. In the current state of this world, in and out of public health crises, it is rare to carry cash and coins, which these dispensers, outdated, and if they're even stocked, require, like quarters or dimes or anything like that. And so this is just one step. Passing this bill is just one step that this legislative body can make that means the world to all menstruating individuals. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Glennis Kaiulani Akamine in support on Zoom.
Hi, aloha, can you folks hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Aloha, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and members on the committee. Mahalo nui for allowing HB 481 to have a hearing today. I have already submitted written testimony, and I'm in strong support of this bill. So I don't want to read my testimony again, but I do want to ask you for help. And honestly, this really is not going to happen without your help. The caring and motivated faculty and staff and students of UH, we need your help. I work at University of Hawaii at West Oahu. We have 15 bathrooms on campus, not including our gender neutral bathrooms. They're really nice and clean. But over the last 2 weeks, as I try to work with and we're late to the party at University of Hawaii at West Oahu. But over the last 2 weeks, because these various bills were created, there's been a flurry of what's happening on our campus. I've been able to confirm that although the bathrooms have vending machines, like you've heard many other testifiers say, they are inoperable. The vending machines seem to collect quarters, but they do not seem to dispense tampons. And I say tampons because the pads have never worked in the 7 years that I've worked at the University of Hawaii at West Oahu. In fact, I came to discover that we don't even have products on campus to actually restock those vending machines. So the work really has been happening with, as Nikki mentioned, pairing faculty and staff just buying products with their own money. to keep them in our office. We do have a nurse. She uses her health fees to pay for those pads and tampons. So like many of our other testifiers before me, we need to look at something a little bit more sustainable. So as you can see, now that there is an ask to provide these free products in the bathroom, this idea seems somewhat crazy to people. That's what I've been encountering. So needless to say, there's a very steep learning curve and growing pains that we need to undergo. I have been a faculty member at University of Hawaii for a little over 7 years. I know we need to do better. I'm trying to work on this issue at a campus level, but I'm finding that this is not going to happen with some type of catalyst without your help. We need this bill. We need a mandate or some type of law to really truly provide menstrual equity at UH. Otherwise, we will be caught up in a web of red tape, amount of questions, reasons, excuses, issues, challenges why this cannot be implemented. So let me just share a quick example. I know cost has been brought up as a concern. I was able to work with my E-Foundation. You heard Bella, I just met with her. She gave me a load of pad and tampons for UH West Oahu, yay. But the challenge is now convincing our facilities department to allow us to place these items in the bathroom where they will be most accessible and needed. Currently, I've been told that we need to keep them in our offices to dispense them to people. So can you imagine every time you need to go number 2, you have to go to an office to ask for toilet paper, right? Anyway, this is kind of what women are left with in these very uncomfortable situations, going on a scavenger hunt on our campus to get the supplies they need. We are back to being secret agents again, figuring out how to request the product secretly and then hide the product on our way to the bathroom. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is viewed as something nice to have. It is not viewed as a basic necessity. So passing this bill is really a step towards normalizing menstrual equity as a basic need, helping everyone, and some women included, to understand that this is something we need to implement. It seems the campus that I work at, if it's not a mandate, I really don't anticipate that we'll be able to address this issue adequately. And as mentioned in my statement, UH West Oahu has more women enrolled than men. Women make up 63% of our enrollment. In the UH system, we have 58% of our student enrollment that are women. And I'm not sure if you know, but according to the 2021-22 Student Aid Impact Report, the average unmet student need at West Oahu is 15,029, 56% of our population.
Yes, and we did note that in your testimony. We did receive your written testimony. So thank you for that additional context. And thank you so much for your testimony. And I just want to make sure that we have time to address all of the measures before us today. Because we also have an additional testifier on Zoom, Susan Iverson, in support. Not present. In addition to the folks who have already testified, we have Michael Galoyu, Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party, testifying in support, Zonta Club of Hilo in support, Julie Talang, Zonta Club in support, Lacey Hero Alliance for Period Supplies in support, AAUW in support, the Hawaii Women's Coalition in support, AARP Kokua Council in support, Rudy Ramirez, Associated Students of the University of Hawaii in support, the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence in support, and about 82 other individuals in support, and two providing comments. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to provide testimony? Please come forward.
Aloha, everybody. My name is Christine. Mahalo for this hearing. So I support this bill because as a graduate student, I've struggled with affording and obtaining the appropriate menstrual products during my menstrual cycle. I, as well, have also used toilet paper. And due to this, I took the initiative. I fought period poverty with projects focused on menstrual equity. So in August, I won a $500 grant from the PAD project, and that provided me 2,376 pads to distribute to my community at the residence halls. And while useful, I think we can take this a step further and have it available across campus, and also have more menstrual product options available. And I've also hosted 2 film nights focused on period poverty and had discussions with students in regard to their struggles with affording menstrual products. And I learned that our students have difficulty affording living here, going to school, and caring for themselves. And sometimes they've put purchasing menstrual products last on their priorities so they can afford food and will skip class due to having their menstrual period. We also live on an island where sustainability is important, and this year alongside the Women's Center, I worked with them to host menstrual pad and panty sewing workshops to fight period poverty with sustainable solutions. These products can be reused for about 4 years, which saves a lot of menstruating individuals money and reduces the waste on our islands. And they're free, and anyone can participate. Many will do so to talk about menstruation and explore other ways of caring for themselves during their menstrual cycle. I believe that having a multitude of menstrual products available for students who cannot afford to take the time to purchase these products is important, so that they can find the right menstrual products for their body and flow. And I believe Bill HB 481 and feel that it would make a difference to menstruating individuals on campus.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I did not see it submitted, so would you mind submitting that to our committee clerk after the hearing so that we can get it into the record? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to submit testimony on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to HB 1493 relating to First Responders Technology Campus and Cybersecurity Data Center. First to testify, we have Michael Vincent, Department of Law Enforcement, in person, in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Caruso and Vice Chair Capella. I'm really sorry I got the wrong committee chairs and vice chair on the testimony.
That's fine.
But yeah, the Department of Law Enforcement stands in support of this measure, and I'll be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to testify, we have ETS CIO Doug Murdoch, in support, in person. Or not. Additionally, we should have Len Higashi from HTDC in support, in person.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Len Higashi from Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. We stand on our testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joy Enomoto, individual, in opposition, in person.
Aloha, Chair Caruso, Vice Capella Chair, Vice Chair Capella, excuse me, and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Joy Lihonani Enomoto, and I am the Executive Director of Hawaii Peace and Justice. I stand in strong opposition to HB 1493, which would appropriate $50 million in state taxpayer funds for First Responders Training Campus for 19 state and federal agencies, including the police, the National Guard, the Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI. I oppose this project. I'm not going to go all the way into all of my written testimony, but I do want to reiterate this. The FRTC's draft EIS states that the opposition to similar projects in Atlanta and Chicago were based on the contentious relationship between organizations in the community, and it goes on to state that the Hawaii is fortunate that such combative relationships does not exist between the residents here and the members of the police and the fire and EMS departments. As a Kanaka Maoli Black and Japanese organizer who's been committed to defunding the police, I take deep issue with this statement. In 2020, nearly 15,000 people rallied for Black lives here in Hawaii, not just because we are standing in solidarity with the victims of police violence in America, but because we also know the system of policing here in Hawaii disproportionately impacts Native Hawaiians who are imprisoned at unconscionable rates. In 2021, we bore witness to the murders of Lindani Mayani and 16-year-old I Remember Saikap. And in addition to this direct violence, we are also impacted by the slow, everyday violence that occurs when public spending goes to police instead of to other social programs. We just heard people talking about not being able to get health supplies, right? They're begging for health supplies. And 1% of the police budget, less than 1% of the police budget, could take care of that. And yet these guys want to ask for more money. They spend money on police dogs during COVID with COVID funds. They clearly do not need increased funding or more facilities to bring harm to communities who suffer from lack of housing, quality support services, and healthy food. To provide just a little context, the State Department of Public Safety received $528 million in general funds in 2022. Meanwhile, the Department of Education received $74 million, and the Department of Agriculture received $24 million, and they're asking also for equipment for them, right? That means that this bill is asking taxpayers to spend more on a single facility than we do on developing our food system in an entire year. So the EIS statements that facility is a necessary response to climate change. We're not trying to just go to war with the weather. We are here to invest in generative economies. We are very, very tired. I am exhausted with funding those things that are bringing harm to our communities, that are perpetuating war in this bullshit name of, excuse me, I didn't mean to use profanity, in this name of so-called national security, in this name of so-called protection, while the Navy poisons our water. We need deep investments in the things that are going to protect our communities, that are going to provide genuine security. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next to testify, we have Keone DeFranco in opposition on Zoom. Not present.
Aloha. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Aloha mai kako. O Keone ko I noa, no wai manalo mayao. Mahalo to the committee today. I'm testifying in strong opposition to HB 1493, which will appropriate $50 million in taxpayer dollars to develop a first responders training campus. The construction and development of this industrial park is being led by Hawaii Technology Development Corporation, HTDC. I strongly oppose this measure for a number of reasons, which is listed in my written testimony. However, I want to focus on the contradiction to HTDC's statutory purpose, which is to facilitate the growth and development of the commercial technology industry and workforce in Hawaii. HTDC has admitted that the emergency workers at this site will not be developing technology or growing Hawaii's technology industry, but instead will be quote unquote using technology. This does not fulfill the legislative intent of HTDC. Using technology is different from proactively developing tech industries. I serve as the managing director of Malama Venture Studios, the technology entrepreneurship arm of Purple Foundation. My entire job is focused on supporting Native Hawaiian-led tech-enabled businesses to grow Hawaii's local economy and develop educational curriculum specifically to support our lahui from elementary school through adult programming. What we need are more statewide programs based on social entrepreneurship to create vai-vai, community wealth, and abundance. HADC funds should be directed towards building industrial parks led and designed by Kanaka Maoli, with a meaningful investment in Kanaka-led training programs focused on regenerative, environmentally sustainable, circular economic systems rooted in the values of Aloha Aina and our Kupuna. The technology initiative should be pono and should be directed towards advancements that increase food security, clean energy, and higher wages for our people. We do not need more weapons in Hawaii. We do not need more FBI and DHS agents running around doing more training programs on our shores. And I shouldn't be walking 10 minutes down my beach and seeing munition signs at Fellows Park. We certainly do not deserve 243 more acres of our stolen land, while the U.S. military already occupies more than 20% of Oahu. We do not want a cop city here in Hawaii. This is a completely inappropriate use of HTDC funds. Direct these towards programs that will benefit our lahui for the vai-vai and economic sovereignty that we need as a people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next we have Teresa Kuehu, individual in opposition in person.
I ran out of white papers. That's purple today. Aloha Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and committee members. I am here in, I guess, extreme opposition of House Bill 1493, which would appropriate the $50 million. for nearly 20 different government agencies, including future commercial entities, such as was noted in the full plan of what that area is going to look like. I stand on my written testimony that I have submitted, but I do want to share a few discussion points. My main reasons for being in opposition is lack of infrastructure. Currently, it's one road in, one road out. That area is located all the way at the back end of Mililani Technology Park. Mililani Tech Park, as you know, is meant for technology. The areas, the businesses within there are distribution warehouses which use very large container carrying trucks, like Target Distribution is back there, the Islander Group. You have Crown Pacific Movers who are back there. So there's a lot of big trucks going in and out at all times during the day. There's also a little neighborhood on the bottom, Launani Valley, where we have to turn left into that traffic coming out of our valley. It's hard enough as it is because there's no traffic lights, but people just zoom right off the freeway. We have 20 different agencies, let's say 100 employees per agency. That's 2,000 extra vehicles coming into a one-way in, one-way out. One road, literally. The overpass over the H2, the Leleho Golf Course Road, is literally one lane coming in. 2 lanes going out, but one is turning left where there are no traffic signals onto the freeway on-ramp where the armory is. 2,000 more vehicles. Now, Mililani Tech Park is, they have a association which has rules and governance. I don't know that this facility will fall within that purview where they are consigned under that association. That may be something to look at with their DCCNRs and bylaws, because there are many things that are not allowed within the park, which includes housing, overnight dormitories, things of that nature. You can't have a racetrack. I mean, there were a lot of issues brought up when the state wanted to purchase land from Castle and Cook for the jail. There were letters sent saying why the jail couldn't be there. The state decided, well, we can make them change the rules. Castle and Cook paid along because they are a large landholder. They're not going to be done with the state. They're going to, okay. My concern as a member, a community member in Launani Valley, I also am a neighborhood board member for Mililani Malka and Launani Valley, neighborhood board number 35. I'm not here representing that, but I hear the complaints and concerns from the valley itself. Now, noise, dust, debris, yeah, that's always going to happen no matter where you are, you know, construction noise. But when they did their EIS, they took a lot of trucks back there, a lot of big dump trucks going in and out to clear. I know that because they left all their trash on our roads, all the dirt and the mud and the rocks. I mean, at least clean up your mess. And that was just when they were just initially checking things out. Could you imagine building day in and day out, bringing in machines, cranes, everything? Are they going to prevent erosion of the slope? Mililani Malka sits above me. Their slope is eroding and is going into backyards. Waikakalawa stream runs right below there. One landslide blocks off that water. That water comes from Waikane all the way down through Waipahu, through Waikele, entering into the stream systems that feed our land. We're not going to start on the cultural issues. Yes, there are native plants and things, and our hunters go out there for food. But what I'm going to say, and what needs to be said, is the real reason why I oppose this bill. It's a waste of money based on its location. This project is amazing. My husband works for the Department of Public Safety, so I know this is important. Cocoa Head firing range, they can't even practice. They cannot even get re-permitted to carry their weapons.
So I am going to ask you something.
So,
Sorry.
because of that, the biggest thing I saw on a video was inundation zone. What is an inundation zone? Someplace where the water's going to rise. Well, you know what? Kapolei Kalailoa, they can't do it because it's an inundation zone. But you know what? They wanted to put the jail there. The rail is there. And guess what else is there? Native Hawaiians. Where is all of our homestead land in every inundation zone? You tell me what homestead on this island is not in an inundation zone. Please do not appropriate this money. Make them go back through and change. The design and location needs to be looked at, especially future use for making money in the commercial world.
Thank you for your testimony. On this measure, we had, in addition to the folks who shared, we had 30 people testifying in opposition. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to submit testimony on this measure? Members, are there any questions? Rep. Mariyoshi.
Can I get the law enforcement division? So I just need some clarity. There's testimony that's saying it's going to be 300 to 400 million, and the bill says 50 million. Do you know where these numbers are coming from at all?
I suspect the HEDC representative can have better idea on the numbers, but I suspect this first tranche of money is for the design and planning. It's what I would suspect, because the construction numbers it's way too low for that.
Makes sense. Is that person here today or no? Could you
Testified earlier.
Director Higashi.
Thank you for the question. To clarify, the 50 million is to start the base infrastructure, which would be roads and sewer and water, electricity.
So what's the total project projected at?
The total road would get up to about 150 million, and then on top.
Project projected at to build and construct the entire.
Sorry, so the project is broken up by by agencies, and for example, law enforcement would be responsible for doing the construction of their building. HTDC is being tasked with providing the base infrastructure. Just kind of explain, our specialty is collaboration. We bring people together. We held some discussions just to bring the different agencies and look for opportunities to work together. The first two agencies that are prepared to go in are ETS with the data center, and HAIMA, who's actively looking at design currently.
So sorry, you still didn't really answer my question. If you know how much the facility is going to cost, I understand it will be 150 million-ish for roads, and I'm assuming subgrade infrastructure. Is there any projected cost for this entire facility, including your portion?
Yeah, I would have to get back to you on that. I don't have estimates for the building. The buildings have not been designed. We've been tasked with master plan for the campus and to set up the parcels. With the federal, state, and county representatives, the concept would be for the feds would be responsible for bringing in federal funding to do the construction on their site. The state would be responsible for their buildings. HTDC is master plan and infrastructure, the basic roadways for the project. I can go back and try and figure out with the number of buildings, come back with the ballpark cost.
Again, I'm wondering because there is testimony submitted that it's placing it at about 300 to 400 million. Is that a correct ballpark?
Is that from me?
Is that a correct ballpark figure for the cost?
I just explained to you about 150 million just for the roads.
Right.
So there's probably additional costs. I don't have estimates of
think that or no?
Oh, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be significantly higher. All of the facilities that you're talking about.
So higher than 300 to 400 million, you think?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Higashi, do you have a question? Rep. Mark.
Thank you.
I just wonder about the noise impact. Is there going to be like live fire or blanks training and that kind of stuff? Shooting
There was
noises?
This was all part of the environmental impact statement, and prior to that, there was, town hall meeting type of discussion. There is intended, this project happens in phases, and so some of the, the buildings are not going to come up all at once. In the future, there are plans for a firing range. It would be in the basement for that specific reason. There was concerns about noise in the area, and so the plan, again, it's just a plan. There's no detailed design for the buildings until funds are appropriated, and that sort of triggers, the detailed design and it would be followed by the construction. So there are plans for firing ranges, but they would be in the basements. Thank you.
I have a question for you,
Sure.
Director. So while I appreciate that you are assuming the role of chief collaborator on this project, I am concerned about the extent to which that's actually part of your mandate as part of HTDC. And I'm also concerned about whether or not it's part of your mandate to be responsible for infrastructure, because that's not the way I read the statute. It says that your mandate is to facilitate the growth and development of the commercial technology industry in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And when I look at the plans for this project, which I have many times, I don't see this as being a key driver, even in that part of the mandate, which like leaves aside like the whole mission of the project. But like, can you explain why it is
We
you're
do it in
involved?
partnership. You know, we are one agency of many that's working on this project.
So, okay, so and then your participation, then the reason your agency is bringing all these folks together is to provide a site for you. Primarily, the benefit is the data storage. Or
you know,
is there another element of the facilitation of the growth and development of commercial technology industry that I'm missing?
No, we you know, I'll start
Unless
with,
it's military sources of technology.
I'll start with, you know, the legislature appropriates funds and assigns these projects. It's a legislative decision, right? From HTDC standpoint, we're trying to look at it as a great opportunity. And we know what our strengths are. Our strengths are bringing people together and getting people to talk. You know, our focus on the project has been primarily the data center, trying to anchor one of the first pieces of a project would be a data center. It will undoubtedly shape and facilitate what comes next. There are tremendous opportunities technology-wise for innovation in with the first responder training. For example, VR and AR is just something small. Cybersecurity, some of those discussions have been contemplated during the charrette, but really, you know, as this project unfolds, it will, you know, time will tell how we can do it. Our focus has been bringing people together, share. Been working with DBED and HCDA, who has expertise in construction, you know, working with the community as well.
Right,
So
and I appreciate the work that you do. I'm just questioning this project, and it's part of my community. So I'm curious. Have you been on the road where this 243-acre project is supposed to be sited?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then you understand what I'm talking about when SSFM comes to the community and says, oh, we understand that there's no way in the world that the current infrastructure will handle the kinds of traffic that will be needed. But then they say, but we're going to plan it and implement the plan in stages, but they don't do it proactively. They're not providing the infrastructure changes proactively. I'm just curious about how it is you think that the legislature should support that kind of planning, which seems to me to be kind of backwards, to be doing the site work first and the road work afterwards, which is how it was explained to the community.
I think, you know, one of the emphasis again for HTDC is doing things the right way. We've been going step by step, and that's why, you know, we have currently submitted the final environmental impact statement, which I think some of the community is responding to. But we've taken every step along the way, including the traffic study. That was one of the things that was done early. I think also this is a project, this is a large project. It's an exciting project, it's a large project. It needs to get funded, which means things will take time. You know, I think things don't happen, you know, this project doesn't automatically result in 25 buildings just coming up tomorrow.
Right, and
Right.
I'll note too that in your testimony, I think it was in your testimony, that you said we may be able to get federal funding.
Absolutely.
And so I think that there's a lot of contingency and a really unnecessarily high level of uncertainty in this planning, which makes me uncomfortable about even beginning this process of change without certain pieces in place, well in place. So if you have like kind of a guaranteed sources of funding that would complement what you're asking from the legislature, I think that would be one story, but
Sure.
it doesn't sound like you do.
Well, let me point out the first step of the Hawaii Emergency Management, HAIMA, their design, planning and design money came from the federal government. So there's already federal contribution.
That's one piece, so there are like 20 pieces.
It's one piece.
Yeah.
It's ongoing. We are currently talking with the State Department of Transportation because there's funding for roads, and are we going to be able to leverage any federal funding there? These are, from our standpoint, we're trying to leverage wherever we can.
Okay. I have so many questions, but I don't want to take up the committee's time. Any additional questions? Okay.
Happy to meet with you, Chair.
Thank you.
Aloha.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to our final measure, which is HB 905 relating to sustainable groundwater yields. Requires university in consultation with the Commission on Water Resource Management to develop a scope of work and cost analysis to complete a flexible groundwater model that proposes methods for determining the needs of traditional and customary Native Hawaiian practices, climate change projections, and groundwater dependent ecosystems. First to testify, sorry, my papers are a little scattered. First to testify, we're going to hear from DLNR in person in support.
Hello, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, and members. Kaleo Mania, Deputy with the Water Commission. The department supports this measure and offers comments and are here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much.
Mahalo.
Next up, we have Ikaika Anderson, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, in support on Zoom or in person.
Aloha, Chair Caruso, Vice Chair Capella, members of the committee. Ovao o Oriana Layout, the department stands on its written testimony and support, and we're available for questions.
Thank you. In addition, we have one written testimony in support from the Sierra Club of Hawaii. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we're going to recess for decision making. Meeting for decision making, Committee on Higher Education and Technology. We're going to begin with House Bill 919.
Vice Chair recommends passing with amendments on House Bill 919. We're going to add language on page 3, line 15 to clarify that the bill applies to both adults and minors, so that subsection 2 will read, for the purposes of enrollment at any University of Hawaii campus, includes any community college that the adult or minor student. This is the amendment from UH. Additionally, on page 3, we're going to be deleting the provision on lines 19 and 20 that requires students to demonstrate their intent to reside in Hawaii by registering as a Hawaii voter. Similar references were removed from the Hawaii administrative rules, so we're going to be adopting that amendment as well. And then also noting that this bill addresses an issue of statewide concern. Members, are there any questions, comments? Okay. Chair for the vote.
Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Martin.
Aye.
Representative Martinez.
Aye.
Representative Mariyoshi.
Aye.
Representative Quinlan is excused. Representative Todd.
Aye.
Representative Woodson is excused. Representative Garcia.
Aye.
Chair, your Vice Chair recommendation has been adopted.
Thank you, Chair. Members, moving on to HB 968. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
Just want to offer a comment.
Yes, Representative Martinez.
I just want to commend again the Pamantasan Council for the work that you have done all these years in support of the students, especially with the Filipino population. Thank you again.
Thank you, Representative Martinez.
Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the excused absences of Representative Quinlan and Representative Woodson, are there any questions or are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation has been adopted.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to HB 313, Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Chair for the vote.
On HB 313, House Draft 1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the excused absence of Rep. Woodson and Rep. Quinlan, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation has been adopted.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, moving on to HB 503. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, just blanking out any appropriation amounts, noting that noting those recommended amounts in the committee report. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 503 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absences of Representatives Quinlan and Woodson. Members, are there any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. House Bill 659 HD1. We're going to be making some technical amendments for consistency and clarity. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 659 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absences of Representatives Quinlan and Woodson. Members, are there any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. On House Bill 481, we're going to be amending the preamble language to clarify that this is an issue of statewide concern, defecting the date, blanking out any appropriation amounts, and noting the recommended appropriation by the University of Hawaii of $1 million in the committee report. Are there any questions or concerns? 481. Mental equity. Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 481, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absences of Representatives Quinlan and Woodson. Members, are there any reservations? Any noes?
No vote.
No vote. Representative Garcia. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. On HB 1493 HD1, we're going to be making some technical amendments for clarity and consistency, deleting Section 3, changing the funding mechanism from A funds, i.e. general funds, to CIP, as this is an infrastructure project, and noting in the committee report that this project still needs to be approved by the LUC, adding the following language to the committee report. The Hawaii Technology Development Corporation's statutory purpose is to, quote, facilitate the growth and development of the commercial technology industry in Hawaii, HRS 206M2. It is unclear whether the First Responders Training Campus aligns with such purpose. Although involved agencies will use cybersecurity technology, the campus does not appear to proactively develop local commercialized innovation, research, and technology industries. If use of technology is sufficient to justify HTDC involvement, that would significantly broaden the corporation's mandate. The Hawaii 2050 Sustainability Plan, charting a course for the decade of action, revised in 2021, identifies 8 focus areas for this decade, each of which includes specific strategies and examples of actions that can be taken to advance the state's environmental, social, and economic sustainability objectives. None of the 38 strategies identified in the most current sustainability plan mention any urgent need for a massive 243-acre first responders campus. With limited social, economic, and political resources, the investment necessary for this kind of project is of questionable benefit and would seem to be a low priority in terms of the work we need to do to advance sustainability and climate resiliency objectives. Members, are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1493 HD1, Chair recommends passing with amendments. Noting the excused absences of Representatives Quinlan and Representatives Woodson, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes with reservations. Members, are there any other reservations or noes?
Reservations.
Reservations, Representative Garcia. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Final bill is HB 905 HD1, and we're going to pass this measure. Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Members, are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 905 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the excused absences of Representatives Quinlan and Woodson, members, are there any reservations?
Reservations.
Reservations, Representative Garcia. Chair,
Thank you,
your recommendation
members.
is adopted.
Thank you, members. This hearing is adjourned.